Hello guys! Hello guys, welcome to a deck tech on Korvold, the Cursed King. It's one of my favorite decks, and it's probably semi-budget with this build, and kind of focused upon the sack outlet value recursion thing. Anything that said sacrifice, I basically put in here. So Korvold, Fey Cursed King, you probably all know him at this point. In case you don't, he's a green, red, and a black, and 2 for legendary creature Dragon Noble. He's a 4/4 flying, and whenever enters the battlefield or attacks, sacrifice another permanent. And whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Korvold and draw a card. This is an insane value engine that can just generate a ton of cards really quickly. So let's get right into the first aspect of the deck, the creatures. You can see just this massive pile of creatures. So we'll go through them one by one really quickly. First one, Cauldron Familiar. This combo is pretty well with another card in my deck. Basically Endless Recursion, which is endless card draw basically for Korvold. Well, nearly endless. They're limited to 1 card per turn. Basically, you get to draw a ton of cards per turn. It's a card Tri-Builder. You can sack them and get ramp out of it, which gets another counter and card draw. So it's ramp, card draw, and buff creature all in one card. Mention it's a 1/1, so it's a sack outlet if you can't do anything else with it. Power of the Swarm generates tokens. Mainly I put them in here because it generates tokens. You just pay 2, tap it, and then create a 1/1 rat, which can easily sack to Korvold. But yeah, as if you have 3 or more rats, you can sack them. You can just gain control of a target creature. Zulaport Cutthroat. This is the more aristocratic side of the deck. With whenever Zulaport Cutthroat or another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Cameras. Fireblade Artist. 2/2 with haste. Red, black. Getting your upkeep, you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, it deals 2 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. Basically a shock on a stick. You have enough creatures to just sack to Korvold. And it's going to build Korvold too while you're dealing damage. Priest of Forgotten Gods, I've seen this one in here. Tap it, sack 2 other creatures. Any number of target players lose 2 life, and they sacrifice a creature. And you add 2 black and draw, which basically allows you to ramp into other stuff. This guy's just a good blocker. The 1/2 Death Touch, but whenever he dies, create a 1/1 black and white flying creature token. Spear token flying, so basically another token to sack to Korvold after he dies. Butcher Goal Undying is probably the main thing. Why I put it in here, because you can recur it twice. So not only can you sack it once, you can sack it again afterwards as a 2/2. Merciless Executioner, kind of a Plague Crafter-like effect, except it affects each player, not just your opponent. It affects only creatures, not planeswalkers. It doesn't force your opponent to discard if they have nothing. Thrashing Brontodon, good enchantment removal on a stick. Which, you know, enchantments are going to be played a lot in Commander because they're harder to remove than creatures. Basically, it gives you a counter on Korvold, draws a card, and destroys an enchantment. Plus, you can bring it back, and it's pretty big. I mean, it's a 3/4, so it can block all the little tiny dudes. Judith, Scourge Diva, gets all your creatures +1/+0. And whenever a non-token creature you control dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. You basically just pump this up 1,000 times. This one's Savvy Hunter. It attacks or blocks, create a food token. And it has sacrifice 2 foods, draw a card. This is nice with Korvold because you get her out before you get Korvold. Got two food tokens already to sacrifice to Korvold before you sacrifice something something important like a land. Just sack a food token. Plague Crafter. Personally, I think one of the most underestimated cards in Commander. Just because it forces each player to sacrifice a creature or a planeswalker. So they're not a creature-heavy deck. They're forced to sack their planeswalker or discard a card. Which is insane. Squee the Immortal. Basically, he never dies. So you can just sack him, bring him back, sack him, bring him back, and just endless loop with Korvold. As long as you have 3 mana. Reclamation Sage, again, just enchantment removal. Most people run them in Korvold builds. Krinko, 10 Street Kingpin. This guy's just value in this deck. So every time he attacks, put a counter and create that many goblins. So it's just gonna generate goblins for your Korvold to eat up as he attacks and generate card draw. It's just going to exponentially build over time. So eventually you just don't know what to do with all those tokens. Annex, Harden the Forge. And it's going to be really hard to hit that red, but I hit more on his second ability. So whenever Annex or another non-token creature you control dies, create a 1/1 black, 1/1 red Satyr token. So basically gives you double sacks. Your sack gets value. And plus with something like that has Afterlife on it, you sack it, you get 2 tokens out of it. You get a Satyr and a Spirit. Evolution Sage doubles the amount of counters on Korvold. I can't say enough. It gets pretty powerful pretty quickly. Camera's poop. There we go. Next one is Leyline Prowler. Mainly add this in for the Death Touch, Lifelink, and Mana Rock, Mana Dork. Just overall a good utility card. Man Devil, probably one of the stars in this deck. Attack a permanent, deals 1 damage. So it's basically a Judith for permanents. Because it's a 3/3, so that helps. Now this one I'm just debating on whether or not it's very useful. It's useful in like Commander, like multiplayer Commander. But single player, when it's 1v1, it's not very useful. It just generates 1 token when it enters. And then just has sacrifice another non-land, pump it until end of turn. Glory Findbroker, this is good, bringing back all your creatures. As you can see, this creature-heavy deck, creatures, enchantments, planeswalkers even, which is ridiculously powerful. I mean, yeah, he's a very specific mana cost. Once you get him out, it's definitely worth it. Basically, in more budget, Eternal Witness. Another Aristocrat, Vindictive Vampire. Whenever another creature you control dies. Come on. Okay. I'm just going to read the text to you. Another creature you control dies. Vindictive Vampire deals 1 damage to each opponent. You gain 1 life. A Whisper Bloodlethargist. Which is basically tap, sacrifice 2 creatures, return target creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield. That goes good with tokens, like the Goblin tokens. You can just sack 2 of them and bring back one of your creatures from the dead. Garna, the Blood Flame. can be cast at instant speed. If it enters the battlefield, return all creatures output in the graveyard this turn, and other creatures you control have haste. That's really good to have out before Korvold, because once you get Korvold out, it's going to immediately be able to attack and pump itself twice. God Eternal Bantu. Good because you can just sack stuff for raw card draw. And sacrifice any number of permanents. You can sack your lands too if you're really going to do the finishing blow with Korvold. You sack everything. Just sack everything but him and Korvold. And you basically have the game won at that point. Unless they remove your Korvold. In that case, you're fucked. But oh well. Nesting Dragon, this is just crazy. Landfall, you're most likely going to hit your land drops. Seeing that it's a green deck, you can run ramp. Sakara Tribe Elder, whatever. As flying, it's a 5/4, and then whenever a land enters, it creates a 0/2 red egg. Then whenever that egg dies, you create a 2/2 red dragon creature token with fire breathing. That's pretty powerful. So you can sack things twice. Keeper of Fables, that's going to be more card draw. Card draw. The most important thing in this deck. Thorn Mammoth, insane value out of this. Basically, whenever another creature enters, you just have Thorn Mammoth fight anything. So it itself is a form of removal. You can just slap down a ton of creatures in a single turn. It's just going to be bad for your opponents. Harvester of Souls, 5/5 Death Toucher. And whenever another non-token creature you control dies, draw a card, more card draw, and on a Death Toucher, which is great. Blocking value. Then you have Tulgar, Famine Incarnate, my final creature. So basically you can half somebody's life total, or bring them down to 20 if you need to. Or bring yourself up to 20 if you're lower than that. Alright, next is our sorceries. We got a good bit of them. First one's Find and Finality. Find or Finality. Find allows you to just return 2 creatures from the graveyard to the hand. And then Finality is basically a board wipe. For any little small creatures, you put 2 counters on a creature you control and then just obliterate everything. Like, that's really small. Like, if they have an army of 1/1s, it's just gonna die. Next one is Angrath's Rampage. This is good for getting artifacts. Also get Planeswalkers too, which is really good because normally they're not going to have more than like 1 or 2 Planeswalkers in play. Unless they're like Atraxa Super Friends or something. Recollect, just straight returns a card to your hand. Pyro, ramp spell with extra value because it sacrifices, which ramps Korvold up. Decimate, destroy target artifact, target creature, target enchantment, and target land. So you get to blow up a bad land, say they have like a strip mine or something that kind of shuts down your deck. You can just blow it up with Decimate. Plus you can blow up a creature, blow up an enchantment. So basically it lets you go through, it's like sort of a single target, but not single target at the same time. Barter and Blood, just sack 2 creatures. Each player sacks 2 creatures, so that includes you. You're going to get some value out of it at some point. It also forces your opponents to stagger back a little bit. Dread Return, just returns a target creature from the graveyard back to the battlefield, and its flashback is sacrifice 3 creatures. So that's going to be some value for Korvold. Blood Divination, again, sacrifice a creature, draw some cards, get some card draw. Essentially, it's a 4-card draw. It's a 4-card draw for 4 mana in this deck, which is insane. Taste of Death, basically a better, more expensive version of Barter and Blood, and it creates 3 food tokens. So that definitely helps with Korvold, not having to sack any creatures for a while. Finale of Devastation. Now this one's just a finisher. Just pump Korvold up. So if you have a ton of mana, you can just play 10, then search your library for a converted mana cost of 10, put it onto the battlefield, and pump everything +10/+10. So it's just gonna, that's just a finisher spell. That's just gonna finish everybody off all at once. Now onto the instants, like 100% of these are removal, so yeah. Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy, Putrefy, Death Sprout, Price of Fame, Windgrace's Judgment, and that's it pretty much with that. Gonna move on to our enchantments, which usually require death triggers, or they're our main source of outlets in terms of sacrifice. Vampiric Rites, it's a 1 black enchantment with pay 1 and a black, sacrifice a creature, gain 1 life and draw a card. So really you're gaining two cards and 1 life, and getting Korvold bigger for each sacrifice. Dreadhorde Invasion just generates tokens. Yeah, you're going to be losing life, but you're going to be building that army. Plus, it's just something to sack. Rhythm of the Wild makes all your creatures uncounterable, and they have Riot, so Riot's pretty darn good. Gives them haste or +++ encounter. Rite of Bells Unlock. I can't say enough how OP this enchantment is in this deck. It has the first 2 turns, it generates 0/1 black clerics, and then on the 3rd step it's a 6/6 flyer with trample, and at the beginning of your upkeep you sacrifice another creature, another Korvold trigger, and if you dan, it deals 6 damage, but most than likely you're going to have some creatures to sack, and that's just going to build up Korvold. Death Reap Ritual. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, you may draw a card. So basically, card draw for all your creature sack. This is insane. This enchantment's just brutal. Because as you can see, this deck is like a lot of permanents. Beginning of your end step, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a permanent card, put it straight onto the battlefield. In other words, put it on the bottom. It's basically cheats out permanents if another permanent you left this turn. I don't get why this doesn't see more play in Korvold style decks, or even Aristocrat style decks. And finally, Moldervine Reclamation. Gain life and draw cards. So that's essentially gain life, draw 2, really. Our next one is our 3 Planeswalkers that I put in the deck. Again, this is a budget build, so don't necessarily have all the best stuff in it. First one is Chandra, Acolyte of Flame. Now you might be asking, well, why put this in there? Look at that second 0 ability. Notice it says sacrifice them at the end of next end step. That's 2 counters and 2 card draws for nothing. That's insane. Plus it's 3 mana, so you put this out, instantly play it, get 2 card draws when they die, and 2 counters on Korvold. So this is just ridiculous in this deck. Plus you get 2 1/1s, you can just fodder them to something else. Angrath, mainly I put it in there for the menace, just invasive, and he generates tokens. You don't need anything else. Garrick, again, extremely powerful in this deck. It gets his zeros, generate 2/2 black and green wolf creature tokens with whenever this creature dies. Put that many loyalty counters on the Garrick you control. So, yeah, that's just sheer insanity. And then his -6 isn't so good, but his -3 is pretty good. It just destroy target creature and draw a card. Creature removal. Mainly zero abilities is what we're looking at. And then his -6 is creatures you control have get +3/+3 and have trample. Yeah, big deal. Bust a lot of creatures. Grim Backwoods. This is just land I wanted to show you because all my other lands are just lands. Or like fetches and stuff like that. You know what the drill with that. This one has on a land, so it's not very easily destroyed. Generally, land destruction is frowned upon in EDH. So it has tap for colorless, but also has black, green, black, and 2. Tap it, sacrifice a creature, draw a card. So that's essentially 2 card draws for 4, which it's not so good, but if you're stuck and don't have any other sack outlet, that's a good one to have. And let's go into our artifacts. Soul Ring, Witch's Oven, Cauldron Familiar combo is in this deck, so yeah. Not to mention, it gives protection pretty much for all your creatures, as you can just stack them to the Witch's Oven. Bring them back later. Arcane Signet and ramp. Aetherworks Marvel is insane because you're going to be putting a ton of stuff into your graveyard. You're going to get energy counter. Then whenever you can pay 6 energies and look at the top 6 cards of your library, you may cast 1 card from amongst them without paying their mana cost, and then put the rest at the bottom in a random order. Blood-Soaked Altar. Tap, pay 2 life, discard a card, sacrifice a creature, create a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying. So basically, sack outlet. And yeah, that's all we have here, guys. It's not very much, but really it is kind of a lot. It's a budget build. I told you that before, so don't go crying. Oh, you need Phyrexian Altar or Altar of Dementia in here or whatever. Because I'm trying not to break the piggy bank with this deck. So yeah, see you guys.